Eye Opener for April 15th, 2026. Is your country working for you? Does it feel as if no matter what you do, you can't get ahead? No matter how you invest, whether it be safe or risky, your investments rarely, if ever, seem to provide you and your family with enough wealth to survive, let alone thrive? I implore you to ask your elders or ancestors the same questions, because I think you might be surprised by their answers. I think they might say that their futures looked brighter when they were your age, and their fortunes have made it so that they could live the American dream. Now, you can seek out all of the various ways in which you feel that life has been unfair to you, or you can consider the possibility that there are forces that have and are still conspiring against you and a vast majority of your fellow citizens. Obviously, there will be those who can still claim to have lived the type of life that one would associate with the American dream, but I'd be willing to bet that that number has diminished over the years. I believe that most people, even those who are marginally wealthy, will look back at their lives, reflect upon them, and project the possibilities onto their offspring's lives. I believe that, if they're truly being honest, they will admit that the futures of their children do not seem as bright as theirs. This is the only conclusion that too many Americans can come to, as an ever-increasing number of them are realizing that the wealth that their children will be able to build is smaller than their own. This would have to be apparent, as one of the best means of building wealth for Americans is home ownership, which is something that is becoming harder day by day and year by year. So, ask yourself why this is so. Why is accumulating and holding wealth becoming that much harder today than it was in the past? Even when you've made investments that should have been sound, you have still not generated enough wealth to be independent. For every investment into which you have funneled your money has either provided much smaller returns than those available just 30 or 40 years ago. Things like interest on a savings account, investment in stocks. Even college does not seem to hold the promise that it once did. Now, ask yourself this question. When you look at all of the things that have seemingly caused harm to your investments, things like the stock market being so volatile as to scare many people into buying high and selling low, or purchasing more house than one can afford, not that the cost of the house was too expensive, but homeowners association fees grew too high, or property taxes doubled, or there was some assessment made that required you to kick in tens of thousands of dollars more than you originally considered when buying the home. And then ask yourself this final question. What entity could have protected your investments? What entity could have stopped corporations from driving the price of everything up to the point that your income alone was not enough to survive? What capitalism practices were allowed to force you to take on more debt to supplement your income? And again, what entity had the power to stop all of the immoral behavior that has festered and grown rampant throughout the American economy? For me, the answer is the government. The government, if it were working for me, would have prevented corporations from making money no matter the cost, no matter the harm their profits cause to the majority. For if the government can't stop vulture capitalists from outbidding real homeowners, or from forcing the cost of higher education out of range for most, or allowing pharmaceutical companies to profit off of an opioid epidemic, or to allow someone like Dr. Fauci to mislead the public into getting an unproven vaccine that made companies billions of dollars during a pandemic. What entity other than the government could have stopped such practices and the other immoral things that have allowed for the confiscation and theft of the wealth of the masses in the richest nation to have ever existed on planet Earth?